Hello, Power Up Nation. Pat Council here. And we're going to talk about something that you really want to pay attention to. If you're interested in achieving your goals and setting the best, most powerful goals that will keep you inspired, then I think you're going to love today's podcast. I'm still sharing information that will help you achieve your goals and get to where it is you really want to be. Don't you think it's time that we all live this magnificent life and continue to do life with power? Of course, because we're built by design to win, right? So, with that being said, today I'm going to talk about how to use the power of your soul to achieve. And this is going to be interesting. But before I get into that, I just want to let you guys know that I have a webinar that's coming up, and it's called What You Really Need to Know About Goal Setting. Actually, I'm also going to do a webinar on how to build your own income, or we're going to talk about building your own income. I'm also going to do a webinar called Wealth and Success, Your Divine Right. Now, if you want an invitation to the upcoming webinars, Wealth and Success, is Your Divine Right, be sure to get on my email list. Just go to designingyourlifetoday.com. And when the box pops up, you can put your information in there. You will be on the list. Or you can go to designingyourlifetoday.com/power up today. Also, it will be in the show notes. The link to the webinar, What You Really Need to Know About Goal Setting, that will also be in the show notes. Now, you can access the show notes by going to designingyourlifetoday.com/podcast. Okay, let's get into this. How to use the power of your soul to achieve. This one is really good. I've been doing a lot of thinking about what it takes to achieve. And anyone who's been listening to this podcast, well, you know that we often talk about things of a spiritual nature. And I think about it a few times. I've talked about the soul. But I said, you know what? I think I want to make this a lot clearer, give more clarity on this. We often think that the spirit and the soul, that they're the exact same thing, but they're not. So you have a spirit, you have a soul, and of course you have a body. So these are very different. And I'm going to talk about how do you use the power of your soul to achieve. Because if you're not getting the results that you're after, and you consider yourself to be a spiritual person, which I think we're all spiritual because we all have a spirit, right? If you consider yourself to, let's say, have a strong spirit or a very developed spirit, then I think, and you're thinking, well, I'm not achieving my goals. Well, today you might get the answer. This podcast will give you the answer. So with that being said, let's get into this. First of all, when it comes to you setting a goal or achieving a goal, I've heard people say that certain things, it was put into my spirit to achieve this, and I know deep down in my spirit that I should achieve this. And some people go, I know deep in my soul that I'm supposed to achieve this. And you know what? That's probably correct, because the truth of the matter is ideas come through the spirit. So why can't you take an idea or something that you're excited about or something that you desire, and why can't you take that and then kind of do what it takes and then manifest whatever this thing is that you desire? So, in other words, why can't you bring this thing from the what we call, I guess, the spiritual realm, where it's not a physical thing yet that you can touch and use, such as a car? You can't drive it; you just see it, and you feel it, and on some level, you go, I really deserve to have this. So why don't you have it? Why has it not manifested? I think again, this podcast is going to give you some answers to that. There are things that we want in our heart of hearts, and we know deep down in our spirit that we're supposed to achieve these things. But sometimes we do things that sabotage the outcome. And sometimes we do them knowingly, and then there are times when we do them without knowing. And I don't know if there's anybody that's an exception to that rule, but I get to meet a lot of people who are not an exception to the rule because I talk a lot about goal achievement, doing life with power. So I encounter a lot of people who are working on understanding more about their power and more about building their magnificent life. And that also includes me. I have to work at it. Okay, so there's my disclaimer that I put out there up front. Now, I think I've done pretty well. Given where I started from in life. But at the end of the day, my mind continues to expand, and ideas continue to come into my spirit, and I get a strong prompting to make something happen. So let's get into this quickly here. All right, first of all, your spirit is really what we call our intuition. So it's your intuition, it is your consciousness, and on let's say a subconscious level, and it is also what we call that connection, meaning it's your fellowship with God, how you make this connection, and God puts these grand ideas into your spirit, and you get this feeling like, okay, I think it's time for me to step out and start my own business. And like, for example, you may have heard someone say, well, God told me to do this and this. Now sometimes it's from God, and well, sometimes they just kind of make it up. But let's talk about the ones who where it's actually from God, because the spirit, and by the way, even though I said that, I want to say this: there's no way I can know. Well, I can know the difference after talking to them and spending a little bit of time with them, but initially, no, because I'm not there to judge. But the point that I'm getting to here is people who are really serious about making something happen, and they truly believe that God put something in their spirit, and they're not just saying something because they have what I call that overly religious way of being, and they want to put everything on God. Um, and there's a difference. So let's press on. So anyway, so the spirit, intuition, consciousness, and that connection, okay, to God. And then we get to the soul, which is what we're going to talk about. Because you're spirit, soul, body. So here's the thing about the soul. You can have something that is put into your spirit for you to make happen, for you to achieve. And it doesn't have to be a thing, it can even be a relationship. Like sometimes a person says, oh, I love this person, I want to marry them, or I think this is the right person. And, a lot of times they're right. Okay. And sometimes they're not so right. But when it comes from the spirit, it's right. And but they talk themselves out of it. Maybe they've been in a previous relationship and it didn't quite work out and it was painful. So as a result, the soul kicks in and says, yeah, I remember. And so then they talk themselves out of something that's very good. So when it comes to the soul can actually create obstacles. And so in order for you to overcome those obstacles and you can in fact achieve, then you have to expand your mindset. And so how is this done? So how do we expand our mindset? Because when people have had perceived failures, and I always call them perceived failures, because when we're learning something new, we're going to mess up a little bit sometimes. And sometimes it's just going to be a major catastrophe, which we would fall under the idea of failure. But when the dust clears, we realize, oh, wait a minute, I just figured out how to do what I've been trying to do, even though I messed this thing up royally um, for the last 6 months, figuring out, oh, this is how it's done. So the point that I'm getting to is that to overcome obstacles, you must expand your mindset. And I'm going to tell you how that's done. How do you not let things that get into your mind stop you from getting to where it is you want to be? Or what is stopping you from manifesting? Because here's the thing, when you get an idea, okay, and remember that comes through the spirit. So when you get an idea, in order for you to manifest that idea, it has to actually come through your soul. Okay, so that's why on this podcast we talk about mind, emotions, and we talk about the physical self, and we talk about the mental self. So we talk about those things, and of course now, and we talk about the spiritual self as well. So if you notice, we've been talking about that a lot more. But I said, let me make sure we really give this the soul the attention that it needs and deserves. So in order for you to manifest, in other words, achieve all those amazing goals that you've been setting, and for whatever reason you haven't been able to follow through or you haven't been able to achieve those goals, in order for you to make it happen, then you know what? You're going to have to deal with the soul. So let's talk about that. How do you deal with the soul? First of all, and I actually saw this. I watched it for about 5 minutes before I said, "Yeah, that's not true." It was a panel of pastors, and they were being asked these different questions. So one of the questions that was posed to them is there a difference between the spirit and the soul? And they all said no. One said no, and the rest of them agreed. And so really, I thought, wow, it's right there in the Bible. And so just to make sure that I had not read it wrong, I had to go back and look it up when I heard this. And I thought, wait a minute, I read that there is a difference. And so I found it in Hebrews, it's 4:12, if you guys want to look it up on your own. And and it speaks to the fact that the word of God is living and active, and that it's sharper than any two-edged sword. And then it goes on to talk about the fact that piercing even the dividing of soul and spirit. So, and then of course the scripture goes on and on. And then there was another one that says that the human soul is not only real, um, but distinct from the body and the spirit. So, and it doesn't, that's not a part of the scripture, but that's in Thessalonians. Now, may the God of peace himself sanctify you completely, and may your whole spirit, soul, and body be preserved blameless at the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ. So, again, this is not to preach to you, this is to actually help you understand that there is a difference between spirit and soul, because when people talk about their spirit, they're thinking about their soul, and when they're talking about their soul, they're thinking about their spirit, or they're speaking of the spirit. So this is why it becomes difficult to actually achieve the way that you need to achieve, because the soul is very different. And here's the thing, as I said, the spirit, intuition, it is a form of consciousness, meaning it could be, subconscious, and what's called superconscious, which another word for superconscious is actually God, and that fellowship, meaning that connection to that superconscious. So that's spirit. But the soul is the mind, the will, and the emotions. Okay, so that's what your soul is made of. I talked about this maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, where I had explained the difference between spirit and soul. But this is about how do you use your soul, the power of your soul to achieve. So, with that being said, since we know that the soul is the mind, the will, and the emotions, then here's what we also know. So, what do we do with our mind? We think. So, the purpose of the mind is for you to think. And this makes me think about the book by Napoleon Hill called Think and Grow Rich. Because he understood that, wait a minute, if your mind doesn't buy into the idea, nothing's going to happen. There's a friend of mine that I knew years ago, and they're still, I mean, we're still friends, we just don't talk as much. And one of the things he would always say is, I've been called to preach. And he talked about all these other ideas that he had, and I thought, wow, he's just built an entire I guess conglomeration, an entire corporation, and spiritual corporation. And I thought about all of that, and I said, this is amazing, the ideas. And but you know what? He did absolutely nothing. And he said, I know I'm supposed to be doing this, but I'm just not. So let's talk about that. What ideas and thoughts do you have in your mind, or that comes to your mind, and you say, you know what, I know this is what I'm supposed to be doing, but why am I not following through? Why am I not making this happen? Why am I not getting this done? So it's because your soul has not bought into the idea. And no matter how many grand ideas you get into your spirit, and I've met several people like that, no matter how many grand ideas you get into your spirit, your soul is going to talk you out of it. So, with that being said, the the mind part of the soul, your soul is three parts: mind, will, and emotions. So the mind is designed for you to think. The will is where you choose, where you actually decide that you're going to do something. And of course, your emotions, it is what allows you and compels you to take action no matter what. So, again, why are so many people not taking that kind of action? Because we all have a soul, okay, and spirit, soul, and we all have a body, okay. So uh here's the thing: it's because you have not taken control over your soul. Because the soul, remember, it's your mind, it's your will, it's your emotions. So we constantly have so much noise coming at us these days, and so many different things, people trying to influence our thinking. But when you're in control of your own soul and you recognize the power of your soul, then you'll say, this is what I'm supposed to be doing with my soul. These are the goals that were put into my spirit. This is the calling that was put onto my life. This is my God-given purpose for being here. So then now you're going to step out and you're going to start to do something more. You're not even going to listen to people who didn't put the idea in you. Because remember, these ideas are coming from God, right? Because we're talking about God-given purpose. So with that being said, the soul has to be controlled by you. Now you said, well, really? Well, you can look it up. And I kind of threw and got scriptures because I think since we're talking spirit and soul, I thought, these scriptures will support what I'm saying. So if you look at Luke 21:18, it says, in your patience, possess your soul. In other words, you need to take the time to take control of your soul. Not possess in the bad sense, but possess simply means you're in control of it. Okay. In other words, if something bad does possess you, you ever heard somebody say, oh, he's possessed or she's possessed? It means that something has control over that person. Well, it's up to you to possess your soul, to take control over your soul, meaning you must have the discipline to control your soul. Because in order for you to follow through and actually achieve your goals, your soul has to be influenced. It has to be influenced by you. This is why and we just finished an election here in America, and I say here in America, you guys, because our podcast has a ranking in over 55 countries across the world. So lots of people are listening. All right. And or at least we hope they are. They are. Okay. So let's press on. So we just finished an election here in America, and if you notice, there was so much news, so many stories, and everybody was trying to influence us into thinking this is the best candidate. No, this is the best candidate. And they gave us all these different stories. Most of them were negative, where we could find out, what makes the person so bad, which it's funny. I guess the object of the game is to stop and ask yourself, uh, who is without sin, who has not done something wrong. I can't think of anybody. That includes yours truly. Oh Lord, that includes me. But let's move on. So anyway, the soul needs to be influenced, but it also needs to be disciplined. Okay. And so this is why you have to take control over your soul. This is why Luke says, in your patience, possess your soul. So you actually have to take the time to possess your soul. In other words, take control over it instead of just kind of flying off the handle with the first thing that comes to your mind. And like people say, well, I got them told, and they just blurted something out there without thought. Now, I used to do that back in the day, but now when I say something that someone may not like, it's not designed to hurt their feelings, but I come from a position of truth and I've thought about it. Um, but the point is that you have to decide what's influencing your soul, and is it influencing you to go towards your highest and best life? Is it influencing you to carry out your God-given purpose? Are you being influenced to be inspired and to have that confidence to follow through so that you can in fact achieve the goals that you keep setting, the things that you desire? And so once you can influence your soul to that point, you know what happens? You're disciplined. It starts to kick in. Now, don't get me wrong. It doesn't kick in like in 5 seconds, okay, or a day. It does not kick in like that, especially if you haven't been using it. But over time, it does kick in. But the desire stays with you to want to be disciplined, to want to follow through. So the soul needs to be influenced and disciplined, which is why the Bible says, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. The Bible didn't say, hey, you know what? Make sure your spirit is super strong. Well, the spirit's intact, okay? Up to a point, but we're not going to get into that today, but it's intact. Okay. Um, God put it there. So, to serve a certain purpose, all right, to feed these amazing ideas to your mind, to guide you, to remind you this is why you're here on earth. This is the purpose that you're supposed to engage in. So the point is that that's why the Bible tells you to transfer the renewing, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Because if you don't transform your mind, doesn't matter how many grand ideas you get. Doesn't matter how aware you are of your purpose. Doesn't matter how excited you get about following through on a project. You will always doubt yourself, talk yourself out of it, and sometimes go to the point of self sabotage. And then you feel like there's something wrong with you. Let me tell you right here, right now, there's absolutely nothing wrong with you. So, we know that we need to pay more attention to our mind. Here's the thing, a lot of times when we want something to happen, we pray for these things. And I want you to know that things you pray for, the things that you desire, these things already exist. So, how do I know that? Again, back to the Bible. It says, call those things that be not as though they were, because they already exist. Okay. Um, and you say, well, why don't I have them? Well, you don't have them because you haven't gotten your soul to cooperate. Your soul has to cooperate. So what does this mean? This means that you're not ready to receive what you're asking for. This is all about your thoughts and how you're thinking. And I have coached people, and I can see that they're so talented, they're so gifted. And the thing that they are so excited about making happen and manifesting, I can just like feel it for them, almost like, wow, they are called to do this. This is amazing. And I get excited because I don't coach, lukewarm people who feel like, well, I'm just here on this earth. So, because I don't quite know what to do with that, but I do have some uh, resources for them so that they can find their direction. However, the thing about this is that, as I said, they want to do this, but they can't make it happen. Why? Because they haven't taken control of their soul. They haven't taken control of their thoughts. So if you're not getting what you desire, then why don't you start with your thoughts first? Check your thoughts and see what's going on. Okay. And it's funny, and you said, well, is that really true? Well, yeah, it is, because it's written, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So you want to ask yourself, have you made a conscious decision to do something? Okay, so because we go now from thoughts to will. And remember, will is your freedom to choose. This is where that whole concept of free will comes from. You have the right to choose, and it's based on something you're already excited about. So you have to ask yourself, if you made a conscious decision to pursue the dream, and this is your will, so the idea can be in your spirit, but it will not begin to manifest because you have not yet chosen to manifest it. This means you've not chosen to do the work. This means you haven't made a strong conscious decision. You haven't made a decision that you're going to do what it takes, that you're going to step up and make this happen. Okay. And of course, finally, if you say, you know what? Huh, Pat, I did decide, but I didn't get anything out of this. Well, if you've decided and then you start to follow through, or you fail to follow through because of fear or procrastination. And see, you can decide to follow through, but you can go in lukewarm. See, lukewarm says, I'm afraid. I'm not sure how this is going to turn out. So I am going to go step by step by step. I'm going to take my time, and we'll see how it turns out. First of all, that's such a lack of faith. Okay. And without faith, you're not going to get the outcome that you're looking for. So, But if you decide that, you know what, hey, um, I'm not, I know I decide to do this, but I'm not going to do the work. And we don't consciously decide that we're not going to do the work. We just don't do the work. All right. So if you fail to follow through, usually it is because of fear or some form of procrastination. And procrastination is the cousin of fear. Then what you want to do is you need to look at your emotions and see what's going on with you when it comes to, because fear is attached to your emotions and it can be a debilitating thing. You don't feel like doing anything, or every time you get ready to do something, you start to convince yourself that you're not worthy because you feel less than, your energy is low. So you can use your emotions to actually put your energy on full blast, high energy, doing life with power, recognizing that you are built by design to win and that you are going to make something amazing happen. And that beyond a shadow of a doubt, you are going to achieve your goals. You're going to get to where it is you desire to be. Now, you guys, I want to say this. This is not some, oh, this sounds really motivating. This sounds really great. No, this is you. This is me. This is who we are, spirit, soul, and body. And of course, you need the body to carry it out. So if you want to use the power of your soul to achieve, then you need to get your thoughts together and you need to think the right things. Okay. You need to be focused. You can't, and I know I'm using a lot of scriptures, but they're coming to mind while I'm talking. So, hey, I'm going with it. So, when it comes to your thoughts and being focused, it talks about a double minded man. It says, "Let not that man think that he'll get anything from God." Okay, because what? He's all over the place with his mind, so he's not focused. Okay, and usually the emotions is what keeps us all over the place. So we listen to anything that sounds good, anything that sounds like it's going to get us where we want. Then we start to focus on the wrong thing. We're focused on the wrong outcome. In other words, you say, well, no, I'm focused on making $200,000 or my first six figures. No, I know exactly what I'm focused on. But you know what? You're focused on the money. That's not the thing you should be focused on. So you have to really get your thoughts together. See, the money is end goal. Okay. But that's not what's going to get you there. So you have to recognize what's going on there. And now I do talk about that in my webinar, what you really need to know about goal setting. So I touch on achievement as well. Plus, with this one, this webinar, there's a VIP session that you can participate in. You get to ask any questions. I'm going to be able to answer your questions. I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be able to answer them. And if not, I will find the answer. But the thing is that the VIP session is for people to get their questions answered. Now, the regular webinar, I'm going to give you some really great information that's going to really show you the best way to set goals so that you can get to where it is you truly desire to be. So you can actually start out right with the right mindset and be prepared for the right actions. But you have to understand these obstacles that perhaps have been preventing you from stepping up and being your best and highest self. You know what? These obstacles, you have to be able to get beyond those. They are in your soul. And so when the VIP session it's about an hour. And if we have to go to an hour and a half, I don't mind going over time a little bit because I want people to get what they need so they can get to where it is they want to be. I think we'll have a lot happier world when everybody realizes, wait, I can do life with power. I am built by design to win. And I know exactly how to do it. And I know exactly what direction I want to go in and what I want to do with all that. So with that being said, you guys, I hope you understand that you can use the power of your soul to achieve, but you have to develop the power of your soul. Last thing I want to talk about here is emotions. When it comes to your emotions, because remember, the soul is the mind, the will, and the emotions. When it comes to your emotions, believe me, there are people who will attack your emotions. Okay, not even knowing that that's what they're doing. There are people who will be rude to you. There will be people who will treat you like you don't matter. You can be in a relationship where it's attacking your confidence, and so you don't feel like you're worthy. These things attack your emotions. Let me say something to you. That's not why you're here. Okay, you are built by design to win, but you have to choose. This is why there's a disconnect when you get this grand idea in your spirit and you don't follow through because it doesn't connect to your soul because you won't allow it to. And sometimes you want to allow it to, but because you have not yet understood fully what needs to come into play for you to make that happen, it doesn't make the connection. This is why the statistics have not changed. It's been, I don't know, since 19 uh, I want to say 1982, but I think it's 1976, based on the research I've done, that out of 100 people that set goals, only 8 of those people will achieve those goals. Those 8, they've taken control of their soul. Okay. So your mind has to be in a position to receive the grand idea from your spirit. This is actually the true meaning of growth mindset and mindset. Everybody's out there talking about mindset. They're not coming from this position. Okay. They come from the position of, if you visualize, it's going to grow. No, visualization is extremely important. And we're not going to talk about that on this podcast because we are out of time. Uh, but it's extremely important. But you have to know where to put all of these things. Okay, you are built by design to win, but it's like a puzzle. If you don't know where all the pieces fit, then everything comes out fragmented. And a lot of people are disappointed because they go into, especially when the new year hits, they go into the new year and they're so gung ho and they want to make something amazing happen. And then they fizzle out. Well, they fizzle out because they don't understand how they're made, what they're made of. And even if they do, they don't learn how to use it. So, with that being said, you guys, I believe that is all because I could go on and on talking about spirit, soul, and body. And of course, the body, you will need that to carry it out. And I've already said that, but I wanted to reiterate that. So, with that being said, you can take your body over to designingyourlifetoday.com/podcast. You can click on this episode, How to Use the Power of Your Soul to Achieve. And you will see in the show notes the webinar link, what you really need to know about goal setting. I think you will have a great time. We have some other webinars that are coming up. So if you are not on my email list, please get on my email list. And as soon as you go to designingyourlifetoday.com, there's going to be a box that pops up there, and you can put your information in there or go straight to designingyourlifetoday.com/power up today. All of this will be in the show notes, just to make it very, very easy. I hope to see you guys there. And I hope you will pay close attention, give a little extra hour to the VIP section so that you can ask your questions and get your questions answered. This is amazing. We're coming up on the new year, and I tell you guys, it's your time. This is your time. How do I know? Because you have the desire, because you have the idea. The minute the idea hits, or the minute you have the desire to achieve something, that means it's time. So do what it takes to make it happen. Do what it takes to manifest it. Okay. So see, we're going to go deep into manifesting with other podcasts, but for now, that's it. So in the meantime, I want you guys to have an amazing day. Do life with power. Why? Because you're built by design to win. Take care.